Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to another week of Real Family Talk. This is your host, Jay Real. I hope everybody's having a great Tuesday evening. I know I am, as always. We just want to remind you, this is Gospel 1680 WOKB, Orlando's Gospel Music Channel. The number at the station, 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. Remember, you can find us on the internet as well, WOKBradio.com. Yes, man, we're going to have a good evening tonight here on Real Family Talk. We're going to be a little short on some of our usual members that join us on the panel, but we're going to hold it down nonetheless. Jeremy, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, man.
Kind of lonely in there, huh?
You know, it's kind of quiet in the booth today, brother. It's kind of quiet here. Just me and you rock it tonight, man.
Well, that's all right. We got it.
That's all right, man. Exactly, man. We got it, man. We'll hold it down for everybody this evening. Shout out to the ladies. Both ladies are not quite feeling ill, but certainly are in the bed resting this evening. So I send out prayers to both ladies, Miss McCrae and Miss Monica, and pray for a safe recovery and hope you feel better come tomorrow. We will definitely hold it down for you ladies as you join us next week, I'm sure.
Yes,
for sure. Real quick, starting off the top, football season, you know what happened on Sunday, right? Right, Jeremy? You do know what happened on Sunday, right?
No, what happened? Please let me know. I have no idea.
You don't know, brother?
Nope, I don't.
The Steelers beat the Buffalo Bills this weekend, Jeremy. That's what happened on Sunday, brother. So
yeah.
The Steelers beat the Buffalo Bills. Here's the crazy part. You know, I've acknowledged
They didn't
that.
beat Buffalo.
Yes, it was. It was Buffalo.
No, they beat Detroit.
No, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Buffalo was last week. Yeah, it was Detroit.
That's your team.
I'm sorry, bro. But here's the crazy part. I recognize that the Steelers are not where they need to be this year. And clearly I don't see them as a Super Bowl team. But nonetheless, as I said before, I'm going to celebrate every win. But the crazy part is, even as bad as the Steelers are doing right now, because the rest of the AFC is not doing that hot as well, we're still in the playoff picture, brother.
and that's the sad part. At 4 and 6, right?
4 and 6, bro.
4 and 6, you still on.
We still in the playoff picture, even in our division. I can't remember the exact record of Cincinnati right now. I think it's like 7-3 or maybe 6-3, something like that. But everybody else is 4 and 6 too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The Super Bowl champions are 4 and 6. Cleveland, which it's Cleveland, so what do you expect? But the Super Bowl champions are also 4 and 6, and so we're like right in the thick of the second wild card playoff spot right now. And, hey, brother, I'm going to celebrate that until we find out at the end that we officially don't make it.
Wow. Well, I get really what you can – well, I was going to say it's a lot of parity in the league, but it's really not. There's a lot of bad play in the league.
Is that what you call it, bad play?
It's bad play. Nobody's playing good. It's up Denver and Kansas City and Seattle. They're the only ones you can say play good pretty much every week. Everybody else is just – you don't know what you're going to get that week.
What do you think about them Panthers? Them Panthers for real?
They might be. I don't know. It's still a little suspect, but they winning. So at the end of the day, I guess that's what counts, right?
That's at the end of the day, it's the W's, brother.
I don't even trust the Saints.
And they got W's, that's for sure. 7-3 right now. Jason Henry just joined us in the booth tonight. How you doing tonight, Jason?
I'm good, man. I heard you talking about waxing poetic about your Steelers, man. 4 and 6, you'll take it, right?
Exactly. We still, like I said, we still in the playoff picture, so I'm gonna take it, brother.
You know what? Just to piggyback on what Jeremy said, it's a lot of bad play in the NFL right now.
That's it.
It really is. Because I mean, even I didn't think the Ravens were that fantastic last year. I mean, not to disparage them being Super Bowl champs, but going into this season, I don't think anybody picked them to repeat.
No.
I didn't think the Steelers would be 4 and 6.
I didn't think the Steelers would be 4 and 6.
I did.
You thought the Steelers would be bad?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a lot of bad play in the NFL right now. I'm like you though. I don't trust the Saints. If they're not on the carpet in the Superdome, they're not a good team. They were beat by the Jets on the road.
Yep.
I don't think they're that great of a team away from the Superdome. The Panthers, their defense is what's really carrying them.
Yeah, exactly.
They are a little suspect. Cam Newton, he did have a pretty good game last night, but he had some errant throws. But their defense is just really, really good right now.
Yep.
Definitely.
They like, well, I can't say that because Kansas City got a better record. But I was like, they almost similar to Kansas City.
I don't trust Kansas
They
City.
said they got it to me neither.
I don't trust Denver either, to be honest with you.
You know, I would actually
It's
trust.
Peyton Manning.
I would actually trust Carolina more than Kansas City, only because of Cam Newton. Alex Smith can't make those
You
plays.
know what? Honestly, I would actually trust Kansas City over Carolina because of Alex Smith.
No.
Really?
Yeah, because honestly,
bet on that.
he's more like a caretaker.
Yeah, to an extent.
He
But
doesn't give the ball
but if
up.
you
He's
need
not-
a play,
he doesn't turn it over.
That's what I'm saying.
I think he can make one.
I'm not saying he can't.
Yeah.
I just don't think he will.
Oh boy! Hey, one last question on this football topic here, real quick. Did you guys see the game last night?
Yeah, man.
Did you see that final play?
What
Yeah.
play? Like a good call to me.
Jason, tell me what was your take on that final?
You
play
know what?
last night?
Here's my thought on it. I understand it's the Patriots. I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm a Tom Brady fan because I like the way he plays football. But overall, I'm not a Patriots fan. But if let's just say that was the Steelers or the Panthers or the Saints or whomever, if that was to be called on the sideline, let's just say somebody was running a 10-yard out. Tom Brady threw it to Gronk, and the guy tackles Gronk before he could actually get to the ball. That would be a pass interference call, right? If it's not in the back of the end zone.
But he didn't get tackled.
He didn't get tackled. You're right. He didn't get tackled.
He didn't get tackled, but he was grabbed.
Yeah, but
No, technically, if you watch, he really never made contact with him until dude had already intercepted the ball. He never really never touched him.
See, I thought he touched him before.
Now, I'm not saying the play ain't legal.
This is how I
I
saw
don't think he
it.
touched him.
I do think he did touch him. You know what I'm saying? But the thing I fault, because they basically ruled that because the ball was uncatchable, it wasn't pass interference.
Right.
So what I think when I look at that play, right?
It's Tom Brady's fault.
Tom Brady certainly threw the ball short, and I think Gronk. I think he could have gotten that flag had he made some
if he
effort.
fought for the
That's
ball.
a good point.
There
That's
you
a
go.
good point. That's a really good point.
You
Yeah,
know?
if he would have fought for it and maybe flailed his arms up in the air, and
I think he could have got the
they
call.
wouldn't have swallowed that whistle or picked up the flag. That's a really good point.
But all he did was he just kind of stood there. He watched the guy intercept the ball,
And then he was just like,
he just kind of
whatever.
faded in the background,
Yeah. But
And
you know what?
You can't. I don't think you give him that.
The
call.
subtext to that was, did you see what Tom Brady did after, as he was talking to the referee?
No,
He dropped a few F-bombs on the referee.
Did
He
you?
was
I
like,
did see
yeah.
that.
See,
Okay.
that's supposed to be a suspension, right?
You
there.
said, and that's what I was going to say, though.
See, that's why they didn't get the call. It's about time something. It's about time something went the other way with them. 'Cause it's like everything always go right all the time. First of all, they took the Super Bowl away from the Raiders 10, 18 years ago, however long it was. It don't even matter. And I'm like,
You gotta let
Suggs.
that hurt go, man.
I'm like, Suggs. They keep changing the game for this guy.
They do keep changing.
They made the fumble, the tuck rule. Then now you can't hit the quarterback below the knees, all because of him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To me,
Yeah.
it's just, I'm not like say I don't know if it's as deep. Well, I don't play, so I can't say this man wrong. He out there playing every week.
Yeah.
Suggs say it's a conspiracy. Goodell like the Patriots, and I'm starting to believe it. That's all I'm saying.
Patriots, that's the motto, man. That's the motto. I mean, the Patriots have been successful for, a decade now?
No, because they ain't won a ring in 9 years. It hadn't been about 9 years.
It's been that long?
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
I mean, but you can say that they're successful in the sense that they have consistently made the playoffs every year.
They
got
just
a
in the
winning
AFC
record.
Championship. Yeah.
Right. I mean, they haven't fell off
No.
by any stretch of the imagination. They just haven't closed the deal,
But ain't that all that matter?
it is all that matter. But but you can't say they haven't been a good team. I mean,
No, I'm not saying they weren't good.
You know, every year they've been fighting for it. You
The
know?
one thing
it's sort of
I-
like Denver when Elway was playing. Every year they
Almost.
fought for it, you
Yeah.
know,
No,
but they
they
didn't quite make it.
They fought for when Terrell Davis got them. After Bobby Humphrey left.
I forgot about Bobby Humphrey.
After Bobby Humphrey
Yeah.
left, John Elway was lonely.
He was. He had no running game.
Yep.
They brought in TD, and they started winning chips.
That's when they started again.
And then John Elway got out of Dodge, retired.
Yep, he's like, I
and
got
then-
mine, let me go.
Yeah, and then
Get out of
TD's
here.
knees went out,
Mhm.
and he rode off into the sunset. I forgot about him. Yeah.
The one thing I will get to the Patriots, the thing I really do like about them, and I'm really going to say the owner, is because I like the organization. And that's because when you go in there, you know what you got to do. Ain't no games. You ain't playing. Ain't no
and
foolishness.
if there are any games, they will get rid of you.
Ain't no, right. And if more teams actually took that approach, well, look, we're not playing. Either this is what you're going to do or you're going to go leave. If they took that approach, more teams would be better.
But don't you think success helps them create that environment?
To an extent. Yeah, to an extent. But at the end of the day, it's discipline.
That's true.
You know, at the end of you got to start with discipline because, you know, it ain't like he showed up and they were just winning all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It just over a matter of years, once the discipline was instilled, you know, and they got lucky, Bledsoe got hurt. And, you know.
Was that against the Steelers?
I don't even remember.
I think that was against the Steelers.
I don't even remember.
I wish the Cowboys had that
This
kind
guy
of
from
discipline.
Michigan, you know. you know, and I actually, I didn't even stop. I can't say I don't like Brady. But I like Michigan football ever since Desmond Howard. So I knew who Brady was.
Yeah.
So it's
I didn't think he'd be as good.
No, not at all.
Yeah, not many thought he'd be as good.
No. Career backup, what I thought.
Yes.
Career backup.
I thought he'd be Chad Henson. Well, Chad Henson's not even in the league anymore.
Right.
But I really did. I didn't think he'd be this good. And when he took over for Bledsoe, because if you remember when Brady started his career, he was almost like a caretaker. He wasn't throwing 35, 40 touchdowns a season.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay, he started to get the offense down, started to understand defenses better, and just took off. But any quarterback, I would submit this to you, not any, but the majority of starting NFL quarterbacks, if you've been in a system that long with that much consistency, you will succeed.
Because I was going to touch on Peyton Manning the same way.
Yeah.
The same way.
And it's the same system in Denver.
Yep.
It's the exact same system. So that's why you're seeing that type of success where if you had even an Alex Smith, if you give any type of quarterback that type of stability and consistency, I think they'd be just as good as Tom Brady.
I think they would too. Because when you can learn, you know, if you can learn the game in one language,
yeah, and it doesn't
the
change.
game can be easy. Mm-hmm. But when you like you say, you take Alex Smith, you know, everybody thought he was a bust till he got a good quarterback coach. Say, this is what we need to do. And then not only that, not so egotistical where this is what you go do. Say, okay, no, this is what you do good. This is what we're going to do then.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because I think a lot of coaches suffer from that. This is how we do. This is my system. This is how we run it.
And you don't tailor that system to the quarterback. Yeah,
which is crazy. You know, you paying a guy, $10 million to throw the ball to the other team, all because you don't want to change the play. You know, it's like, you know, he can't throw the out. He didn't throw the out in college. So why are you
forcing him to try to throw the out now? Absolutely.
Hey.
That happens a lot. Look at the New York Jets and Geno Smith and Mark Sanchez. How many? Honestly, Mark Sanchez may be a decent. If you're able to take your team to the AFC Championship game, or
you got to give him that. Yep.
You do. The defense took him. He just didn't make mistakes.
There you go.
So if you're that type of caretaker, if they were able to instill some type of stability into that organization, I think honestly they would be a Super Bowl champion.
They could be.
Stability and consistency, it really does mean a lot. But because a nut job is running that team in Rex Ryan, you're not gonna get it. You're just not gonna get it, man.
Oh man, we'll see, man. I'm just loving it. It's football season, man. This is
close
the best
to the
time
end
of the year.
too.
It is getting close to the end.
That's the sad part. Getting close to the end.
It is
College
getting close
football
to
is
the
about to end.
Yep. Florida State undefeated, by the way.
Florida State is undefeated.
You know what I'll say about FSU? I've never been a Noles fan. Never liked the Noles. Ever, ever, ever. But Jameis Winston, we graduated from the same high school.
Oh, yeah?
So I'm a Noles fan now.
There you go.
Absolute Noles
Never
fan.
Too late. It's never too late.
But as soon as he's gone, I'm gone too.
You be done with FSU.
I like that kid though, man. This probably
Jay Boo. That's
probably the most. Well, this probably the most dominant Seminole team I've ever seen, and that's hard to say.
Even since Charlie Ward and Ward Gunn.
And the only reason I'm gonna say that is just because they have. I'm not saying they haven't had a close game, but no game this year has ended close. They put every team away.
That's true.
You know, but I will say this. Now, back then, there's a lot more competition.
I think
the competition may have been tough. Maybe they scheduled tougher.
Yeah, that's part of it, too.
Back then,
Bobby Bowden played anybody anywhere. He didn't care.
He did.
Bigger, though.
He didn't care.
He did. I mean, just the FSU team now, like the first half of that Miami game, I said, okay.
Right.
It may be. And then I turned it over in the third quarter. I'm like, oh, my gosh, man. Like this. ended badly very, very quickly. And I'm not a Gators fan, but I'm sorry for what's going to happen to them that way. Because when he gets, I'm serious, because they're not any good this year. The Gators are terrible this year.
Yeah, bad.
And could end up being, FSU was beating the Wolfpack, NC State 35-0 in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And so what's going to happen to Florida?
Who knows?
I just hope they stay undefeated. I hope they stay undefeated and Alabama does, so we can see them in the national title game.
Yeah,
That would
I
be
want to
good,
see that
man.
too.
Yeah.
That'd
be
be
dope.
good.
Yes, I do, and I want to see the Seminoles put it on them too.
Oh my gosh, man,
Yes, sir.
that's tough. That's the hometown squad against
Yes,
the
sir.
hometown.
Put it
It's
on.
gonna be tough, man. You have to pick a side, then,
Yeah,
man.
man.
I just think the better, just because they closed the deal. I mean,
Alabama's methodic, man. They
that's
are
what I
like
was
a
gonna say. It's hard.
professional.
That's exactly what they are.
Yes, that's
They're
a
really like a
professional
professional
team, man.
Yeah,
Professional
that's
team.
what they are.
If
Gonna be
honestly,
good.
if they were down by 21, I would still have faith that they would win.
Not against Florida State.
Oh, against Florida State, I would.
Not against Florida State. Anybody else here? Because I don't trust nobody else. But down 21? No.
They done, bro.
gosh.
We'll see, man.
We got
We'll
running
see.
backs, too.
I think it's coming. National
We got 3
championship
beasts
game.
in the backfield.
We'll see,
Alabama,
man.
FSU, man. It's coming, man.
Hopefully.
I hope so too. I do.
We'll see.
Alabama still has Auburn left. They were able to take care of LSU. Auburn had the Hail Mary, that lucky play at the end of that Georgia game
Yeah, that's
to remain. Yeah, what are they, 9-1 now? And Alabama may have to end up playing, is it Missouri, I think, for the SEC championship game.
I think so. I think it's Missouri.
So I mean, there's a lot that could happen. So I hope that it remains as is, so we can see those two teams in the national title game.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll find out in a couple of weeks, bro. Find out in a couple of weeks. Jason, let's go ahead and talk about what you brought to the table tonight, sir.
So there has been a lot of discussion about race lately, especially with the botched rollout of Obamacare and how conservatives have attacked the president. I saw an article from USA Today that the Best Man Holiday, which made $30 million, which blew expectations out of the water.
Yeah.
They called it a race-themed film. So I've just seen just so much discussion about race, and I wanted to talk about a story that I found as it pertains to government and as it pertains to the economy, but not necessarily here, but I wanted to not necessarily correlate it, but I wanted to compare it to what's going on in the United States of America. So Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff, she has submitted a plan to Congress in Brazil where she wants the Congress in Brazil to reserve 20% of government jobs for blacks in Brazil. And the reason why, because half of the Brazilian population is made up of black people. And as same in America, they suffer just as much as African Americans do here. There are a lot of socioeconomic problems in Brazil dealing with black Brazilians. So she submitted a plan. She wants Congress to reserve 20% of all government jobs. Every single government job, 20% of those have to be reserved for black people. So how do we juxtapose that or compare that to what's happening in America right now? One of my biggest criticisms of President Obama, whether this is feasible, politically feasible or not, is that African Americans have struggled since the recession, even before the recession. Mm-hmm. But since the recession started, with jobs, with employment, that's the only thing. If we look at any type of economic statistic as it relates to food insecurity, as it relates to wealth disparity, as it relates to the mortgage crisis, it usually all goes back to jobs, how we've lost our jobs. So whenever you see any economic numbers come out at the beginning of the month, it always says, well, the unemployment rate ticked down to 7.5. The unemployment rate ticked down to 7.4. However, the African-American unemployment rate remained 12.4, 12.5. It went up for African-American women. So I wanted to have a discussion about how could President Obama, number one, pull this off in the United States of America? Not necessarily because I understand that a lot of black people already make up a lot of the federal labor force. But if he was to submit a plan to Congress to say, I need you to reserve, a third of the budget or 2% of the budget in America so that we could create a jobs training program for black people, so that we could reserve some type of you want to call it economic training, where we are redeploying them back into the workforce with new skills. Is that something that the president could do? And if so, do you think that this is something that the majority, and I'm not talking about black people, but the majority of Americans would support?
No.
No for both.
Yeah, I would say no for both.
No for both. Do you think it's something he should do?
Definitely. I think it should. I think he should at least make the suggestion. I don't think, though, that he could. I don't think he could secure the funds, though, through Congress.
No, he couldn't do that.
To make that happen.
I agree with that one. I don't think he could secure any type of funding for it, but he is he's a pretty dexterous guy. I think that even when it came to the Affordable Care Act, he pushed that off to Congress. Of course, they sort of took the lead on it, but he said, Congress, I want you to come up with a plan. So if he was to take the lead and say, okay, you know what, this has been going on too long. This has been happening for far too long. So this is something that I really want you to take up. And if President Obama has a 94% approval rating amongst African Americans, Hispanics it's high, even amongst some white people it's still high. In an intellectual way, there has to be a political workaround for him to do this. He doesn't have to be overt and say, I need you to create, X amount of jobs just specifically for African Americans. You can frame it in a way to say that we need to help this segment of the population. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up as it relates to race is because I don't think this is a racial issue. If it was white people, if it was Hispanics, if it were Asians, I believe that whomever the president may be, that you need to target this segment. So if the next president comes in and we have an issue with Asian unemployment rate or Asians being unemployed, then I think that president needs to tackle Asian unemployment. But because we view race in such a different lens now, because we have someone in the White House who's never been the color of Barack Obama before, everything becomes toxic. So if he were to submit something like this, then it automatically muddies the water, so to speak. So if this black president comes out and says, okay, yes, I need to create, 20,000 jobs for African Americans, then you're automatically going to take your side. So if he were to frame it through something else, either, Secretary of Transportation or Secretary of Commerce or whatever that individual may be, then maybe you can actually have an honest dialogue about it instead of it coming from this individual.
See, the problem, 407-894-1680 is the number, 407-894-1680. You can join us in these conversations. See, the problem that I see here do I think he should do it? I think definitely. I think he should have did it during his first term, but definitely in the second term. What you got to lose at this point?
Yeah.
You might as well throw all your ideas on the table
all your chips to the
and just see where they fall at this point. But the problem I see is the government right now is so polarized to whatever side you want to choose that they can't seem to get together to accomplish anything that will move us forward. And that's the problem, because everybody's got their point. Nobody's compromised on anything, really. Either people have surrendered, like when it came to the government shutdown. Basically, Republicans surrendered and said, all right, we give up this fight.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're surrendering. So to come together and work together is just not happening in order to do anything that's going to move, let alone African Americans, but anybody, just Americans, period. They can't even just move on simple things, creating a budget for each other, creating a budget for the country, and it's a no-brainer that the country needs a budget, and they can even come together on that. Let alone come together on a program that's going to help people. And so there's where in line I see the problem. If I think if anything like that gets done, it's gonna have to come through, not through government, but through the private sector. Whether it's through a foundation that has quite a bit of money set aside, or some organizations get together to raise money. That's where I see something like that happening. But our government. It's both sides. Democrats have contributed to this problem. Republicans have contributed to this problem. The president has contributed to this problem. So, it's all of them together that are just constantly fighting each other so that none of them can agree on anything. So, yes, it's needed. Should he talk about it? Of course. But where does the funding come from? I think you have to come from the private sector on that one. I don't think you can get the government, anybody in the government, to agree. It's going to be infighting, and then ultimately nothing's going to get done.
And you know what? I'll just give you a few statistics as it relates to the wealth disparity in America. In 1978, the average male worker made $48,000 per year, a figure that is adjusted for inflation. And now, in 2010, the average member of the so-called 1%, I'm sorry, this actually relates to back in 78, the average member of the so-called 1% made just $390,000. In 2010, the average male worker made just $33,000, and the average member of the so-called 1% makes a little over $1 million per year. Wage growth in America has been flat since 2000. There has been absolutely no wage growth in almost 14 years in this country. So if we're talking about issues of employment, if we're talking about issues, honestly, this all comes back to one thing. It all comes back to the economy and, just America's poor financial disposition right now. So whether it's African Americans, whether it's white people, whether it's Asians, it just doesn't matter who it is. If we're talking about no wage growth for anybody, especially middle-class people since 2000, if we're talking about the wealth disparity continuing to grow between the 99% and the 1%, so, if the president of Brazil can come up with something as simple as this, I need you to reserve 20%, which is not a lot. I need you to reserve 20% of all government jobs for this sector of the electorate they're having trouble right now. So why can't we come up with some type of plan, whether it's the private sector, whether it's the government? Why have we not been able to come together on something as simple as this, as getting people back to work and trying to close the gap between and honestly, I understand that when you say 1%, when you say 99%, people automatically take their sides in that as well.
Right.
So we can even frame it differently, but poor people are suffering. Poor people, middle class people, the working class, especially the working class and poor. So why haven't we, and President, Republicans, Democrats, whomever that individual may be, while we're focusing on some of these superficial issues that have nothing to do with America's prosperity, we're still not focusing on what's important, and that's getting people back to work and trying to jumpstart the economy.
Because I think ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to think about what's most important. The last election raised, if I remember right, over $1 billion.
Yeah.
In just campaign funding.
Yeah.
$1 billion in campaign funding.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the stock market. Stock market just went over 16,000 for the first time. 1,800 for the S&P.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, the people who you don't raise $1 billion by helping out poor people. Okay, you don't raise $1 billion by helping out poor people.
Absolutely not.
So that you raise $1 billion by making sure the people who have money are continually to make money, so that when the next election comes, it won't be $1 billion, it'll be $1.5 billion.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, that section of the population is getting their money. Because the stock market is killing. I mean, the stock market during his whole presidency, President Barack Obama's whole presidency has been just killing. So that 1% or whatever, they're making their money, and then so that when it comes time again, they'll be in line to make sure that their guy, whoever it is, because at the end of the day, they claim a side, but at the end of the day, they're donating to both sides.
Absolutely.
Equally, usually.
Yeah, they do, absolutely. And that's so, locally as well. You donate to both sides, and then once you figure out who may win, okay, well, I'm going to go with this side, even though I've given you money as well,
right.
But we have to take care of our interests. So why don't we flip that and say, all right, well, individually, singular. This could be a singular issue.
It should be.
So if we're talking about Goldman Sachs or other, large, businesses who give, just give large amounts of money to, politicians, then we need to flip it. This needs to be a singular issue. How does this relate to you personally? Because I can guarantee you somebody who's been, kicked out of their job.
Right.
You know somebody who's been laid off. You know somebody who's having financial issues. You know somebody who's probably been foreclosed on. So, for Americans, why haven't we been able to flip this and make this a singular issue? And the second part of this...
Honestly?
Go ahead.
Just to answer that question.
No, go ahead.
We're too busy picking sides. That's why.
Yeah.
We're picking sides. We're either riding with Democrats or we're riding with Republicans. And so as a result, because we picked our side and we're honestly not instead of focusing on a side, we're not, as a result, I should say, we're not getting anything accomplished because we're only focused on what our side is doing.
You're focusing on what your side is doing, and you're focusing on winning, whatever that position.
That is.
Whether your position is wrong or right, you're focused on winning,
as long
whatever
as your
that
side
is
winning. Exactly.
Then
as
everybody
opposed
suffers.
to saying, listen, you people are here to help us. You people are here to move us forward. Move us forward. Put aside all of your little issues because, I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, these people are friends. They're not enemies. They have dinners together in Washington. They live, next door to each other in Washington.
Kids go to school together.
Their kids go to school
they
together.
They have tea times in the morning together.
So all that arguing that they do for us, and when we look at C-SPAN and when they talk to reporters, it's just that. It's for the show. At the end of the day, they're friends. So we need to just start holding all of them accountable and say, we need you to get something done. Otherwise, we're moving on. And I think that's where we fail is we don't move on.
But you know what? What do we move on to?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Because, I mean, if we look at the last election, I saw an article today on the Huffington Post where it said that if the presidential election were held today, Mitt Romney would lead President Obama 49-45. I mean, that's how fickle of a population we are. We're that indecisive where, just 8 to 9 months after we've elected this man or after he's taken his second oath of office, we're ready to kick him out of office again. So what side do you go to, or what do you say what do we move on to? Because it's just a vicious cycle. So if Jimmy's my elected representative and I don't feel like he's done a good job, then I'm going to move on to Jeremy. Then if I don't feel like Jeremy's, then guess who's waiting right behind Jeremy? It's Jimmy again.
Right.
But Jimmy said I've learned from my past mistakes. So what are we moving on to?
I think that is part of the challenge and the frustration that we feel on our end. But I think it comes with, like I said, holding them accountable. If you do what you say, and we see you do what you say after you get elected, then if we want to put you back, we put you back. But if we don't see what you're doing, if you're not doing what we wanted you to do or what you said you were going to do, then we need to focus on putting the next guy in. There's not going to be any guarantees in this game.
Absolutely not. And there should be.
So that as a result, you just have to keep playing that. Unfortunately, the game. You got to keep sending the next guy in, hoping that he'll be better than the next guy. Because the last thing you want is to keep sending the same guy up who's doing the same things over and over again, and we're stuck where we are today. We're not moving forward. We're not doing anything. We're just, sitting back watching everybody argue with each other.
But you know what? For every politician out there, for every 5 people that hate him, there are 10 people that like him. So, I mean, we have some of these super districts where, some of the people who have been gerrymandered into their seats can keep those seats for the next 10 years, and then they're going to redraw the lines to make sure that those districts are going to remain, stringently Democratic or stringently Republican. And, that's why when you see, polls that come out and say that Congress has like a 4% approval rating, well, it absolutely does not. But individually, if you poll the individuals of that district, like if you poll some of the individuals in Kareem Brown's district,
they love her.
Yeah. So, I mean, even some of the most radical members of Congress, their districts love them because what they voted them in to do, they've gone to do. Ted Cruz, that maybe they voted him in to shut down the government.
Yeah.
Guess what he did? He shut it down.
But that's my point. If he's doing what you want him to do, then you keep sending him back.
Exactly.
Now, we may not agree with how he does it. I certainly don't think, I'll say this. I like the concept of what he's trying to do, but the way he's going about it I think is completely wrong. But if you like him, send him back. But that's why when we go to Florida, if we like Kareem Brown, send her back. But if you don't like Dan Webster, don't send Dan Webster back. And don't sit around and go, well, his district is this. No. Get people together, find a candidate that you like, and then make sure people go out and vote for that said candidate. The problem is we get so frustrated frustrated in the process, and then either give up and go, you can't do nothing about it anyway.
Yeah, it creates.
And so we give up, or what we have to stay focused. We have to keep the fight going. Even as we get frustrated, even as we hit those walls, you got to keep fighting, because at the end of the day, that's the only way change is ever created, is when the people get together, collectively, whatever your position, get together collectively and then develop that coalition of people, thousands of people, millions of people together, and then push your agenda forward. It takes money to do that, so you got to be willing to put up some money in this kind of government.
Well,
without money, you can't do nothing.
You might as well shut it down right there.
You know that, brother. Without money, you can't do nothing.
You absolutely
So you got to have some money. And if you don't have any money, then you better have the numbers.
Yeah.
You got to have one or the other. You got to have money or you got to have the numbers. It's better when you have both. Yeah. But when you get that, you have to band together. You have to stay focused and united on one single front. The way that black folks right now support the president is very is a classic example of what I'm talking about. We banded together. We support the president. 93% of us saying, no matter what happens, we gonna vote for this man every single time. That's the banding. That's the kind of banding we need to do when it's not President Barack Obama, when it's, Representative Bob O'Donnell or whatever, you know what I'm saying, whoever's running. We need that same kind of fire and representation for that guy as well. And when we start banding together like that, when we start putting our funds up like that, $5, $10, $20, 8, 9, 10, 20 million people banding together, that's that change. That's that movement. That's what it takes to get the legislation together that you're talking about.
You sound like somebody who voted for Obama in 08.
Well, you know that didn't happen, brother. But saying that's what it takes.
It does, but you know what? That also goes to creating blind spots as well, as this relates to higher office, as it relates to the president. Because one of my things about him, or about the African American community and our blanket support for him, no matter what he does, is that if he goes out and he addresses a joint session of Congress, and Representative Joe Wilson stands up and says, "You lie," then that it's going to create and provide more cover for him, even if he's doing something wrong. I'm not saying that he has, but if the president got up and you have some on the other side of the aisle who do not agree with him politically, and they come out and say he's a liar, he's a fascist, he's a communist, calling him all these names, then black people are going to band together and automatically call that individual a racist or a bigot or, whatever it may be. And that's when we start creating blind spots, because he's had this cover for everything that he's done now. Because if you have 93% support from anything, you can basically do whatever you want to do.
And he has
93%. I mean, I'm serious. Whether it's good or bad, I'm not trying to disparage anything or anyone, but when you have that type of support, that's when, dangerous things can happen, because you can basically do whatever you want. You can create whatever type of programs that you want. You can push it forward at least. And I believe that's when we've created a lot of racial blind spots with him. And I don't think a lot of us were able to see this coming, because I remember having a conversation with an individual back in 2007, and they're like, look, if you really want to have or to push the conversation of race forward, then you need Hillary Clinton in the White House instead of Barack Obama, because it's just going to make it worse. Right. Not through the creation of, he's not going to create that. A lot of people are thinking exactly because of what those on the right or the left are going to do, because the environment is going to become so toxic and polarizing. Right. So when it comes to legislation, when it comes to a lot of the, political things, he's trying to do, we have become so blind to some of those things that we aren't able to decipher if they are good or bad. Because whatever he says, if Barack Obama says the sky is blue, Ted Cruz is going to say it's green. You're automatically going to be against Ted Cruz because of where he stands and who he stands with. Right. So if Barack Obama comes out and says, all right, the ocean is pink, and Ted Cruz says, no, brother, the ocean is blue just like the sky, then you're going to say, wait a minute. Ted Cruz ain't Ted Cruz ain't never told the truth about anything. So why should I believe anything that Ted Cruz is going to say? Yeah. So how do we, trudge through this? How do we get to the point to where we are able to decipher what's good and what's bad? Because right now, I just believe that we are lying in that blind spot where we are not able to decipher what's good and what's bad. And I hate to say we as a blanket, because everybody's not included in that. Every single African-American individual who supported President Barack Obama is not included in, that blind spot. But I give an example. Oprah Winfrey gave an interview with the BBC, and she said that she basically said that, a lot of what has happened to him has been racially motivated. And Rush Limbaugh came out and said, well, how was that so when you were created? You were the most, you were the wealthiest, the most popular television personality in the country. So, how is that racism when we created you, when America allowed you to happen? But that's so simplistic. That is such an intellectual, that's such an argument void of any type of intellect.
Right.
It's too simplistic because America isn't black and white. You can create something. An example, and I'll implore you to do this. Charles Blow is an op-ed columnist for the New York Times. He wrote this really eloquent piece called "Disrespect Race and Obama," and he said. He was talking about Rush Limbaugh and Oprah and Jay-Z and Barney's about what's happening with that as well, where we just basically have these blind spots where we're not able to decipher some of the things that are going on because we see things in such a simplistic way. So once Barack Obama is out of the White House,
we'll be able to get back to the real.
Exactly, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because we needed this. Don't get me wrong. Finally, we had a black man in the White House.
Yeah. So
what are we going to do after that?
Yeah.
What's going to happen post-Obama?
Yeah. 407-894-1680 is the number, 407-894-1680. I've long, said and thought that the election of President Barack Obama is the best and the worst thing that's ever happened to us.
Yeah.
Simply because, unfortunately, it took away all of those conversations that we had pre-President Obama, because the same problems still exist that we discussed pre-President
and they've been compounded.
Obama.
Yeah.
They've all only gotten worse, but now every single time anybody brings them up, the only reason why they're bringing him up is because he's black.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's like, come on, man. Can we have an honest discussion about the same,
And you know what? And I'll be the first to say, I fall into that category sometimes because I have some friends on Facebook some conservative friends who every single chance they get, Barack Obama lied about this, Barack Obama said this. And I'm like, man, I'm struggling because I understand who you are, but honestly, I don't know if you're doing this because you actually have a valid argument or because you just don't like him because he's black. So, I'm not going to front and say I don't struggle with that as well because I do. But, for me, it's just, taking a step back. All right, you know what? Let me try to get a pretty good read on the situation, because when you have somebody that's continually banging and banging and banging on you and you're just like, well, what has he done wrong? Like, good grief. Like, what does the man done wrong for you to continually bang on him like this? Right. But then you have to try to take the color out of the situation. And that's almost impossible to do in this environment that we're in now. Because again, not everybody, but the majority of the people that I know, they view this through the lens of the first black man in the White House. So it's either you're racist or you're not. Like, right. That's the environment that we're in now. So if you say something disparaging about President Obama, oh, well, you're a racist.
You got to go check his car.
Yes, exactly. It's just like, well, wait a minute. Don't be black and say something negative about it.
Oh, gosh.
We're going to pull your black card and kick you out the community.
Don't be Tavis, son. That's I think like I said, that is the frustration that I feel, when talking about President Obama. A lot of things, I've been very, critical about some of the things that he's done, and when I view the criticism that he gets from the outside the community, I'll give you, there's some individuals where you hear what they say and you question, is this truly coming because of ideology, or is this coming from race? And I think, living in America, I think we understand that, yes, there's some individuals that are definitely criticizing due to race, but one of the things I think that we've seen, if you just go back and look at, because a lot of his ideas, if you look at his ideas, they aren't brand new ideas that never been discussed before. Yeah. So when you go back in history and you just judge and listen to what the opinion of with a lot of these same ideas in the past, the ideology has not changed. The same comments they made 8 years ago or 10 years ago are the same comments they're making today. So it's not all rooted in race. There are some individuals that are out there that it is, and that's, you can't do anything about that. No. That's going to be, that's where we live until as a people we rise above that. But it's not all rooted in race, and so I think we just have to remember that. I think as black people we need to critique him in the same manner that they do on the things that, that he's wrong on, just to keep it real, if you will. keep it consistent. You know, if we were to criticize President Bush for it, we need to criticize President Barack Obama for it, because it's no difference.
And you know what?
in the system.
That's a very easy comparison that we can make. If President Obama has done something that, you know, is comparable to what Bush did, then all you have to do, because I can guarantee you, the vast majority of what Bush did, every black person hated. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of the cats that I know on Facebook, he was talking about, well, which lie do you think, you know, the president should be called to the carpet on? He's talking about when the president came out and said, if you like your health plan, you can keep it. And then he named some more things, and I said, well, what about when Bush got up and lied about taking us to Iraq and Afghanistan? And one of the commenters said, why do liberals always do this? And I'm like, well, this is the conversation we're having.
Right.
So that's why, you know, you are viewed that way by so-called liberals. And I'm like, I don't view myself as a liberal. I don't view myself as a conservative or anything, because I don't want that label. I'm not black and white on anything. So, I mean, I could be conservative on one issue and liberal on another. But why is it that it and that's the same way for liberals. If a so-called conservative comes on and says something, it's like, well, you were going to ride for Bush anywhere. You were going to do this. It's like, well, why can't you just look at the message?
Right.
I'm just, you know what, you said that was your favorite lie? Well, this is my favorite lie.
Right.
It's not because I'm trying to say, well, you know what, yeah, well, I'm going to one-up your lie with, you know, a lie from a conservative. But that's not how it is. So it's, you know, post-Obama, once we get out of this environment, and again, I'm not saying that he created this. I'm absolutely not saying that. He is absolutely a victim of it.
He's a victim.
But once we move past this, and whoever the next president, because we know the next president won't be black. The next president is going to be white. And I guarantee you a lot of people are going to feel comfortable with that, because it's going to go back to the America that they've been used to.
Right.
But America, the demographics are changing. Everything in America is not as it has been before. So when you hear a lot of people say, well, America is dying and I would just want the old America back. No, you want America to look the way that you've been used to it looking like. And that was a white man in the White House, a white man as Secretary of State, a white man as Secretary of Transportation, and a white society. And now that America's looking different, you know, that's when some of the coded language comes in. But once we move out of that, if it's Chris Christie, if it's Hillary Clinton, if it's Ted Cruz, whomever that individual may be, then what are we going to do then? So what's the post-Obama racial world look like? Are we going to continue to have these same toxic conversations? Are we going to go back to being the median? Are we going to have some of these? Remember those town halls that Congress had? What was it in the summer of? What was it 2010 during the debate over Obamacare, when people were being shouted down and, you know, somebody brought a gun, I think, to a town hall? Are we going to see that type of toxic environment continue? Or will everybody kind of simmer down because now we don't have this individual who is so polarizing in the White House? And specifically for black people, are we going to continue to show up to the polls?
That is the question, brother. That's the question that I want to see. You know, I'll be honest, I doubt it. I think we're going to go back to the numbers that we voted in pre-Obama. That's my personal opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I hope everybody proves me wrong, and that's not what the case is. But I think we are, because I think, again, we weren't moved by the message. Mm-hmm. We were moved by
the color. Yeah.
And so the color won't be there anymore.
You know,
and so actually, what is gonna draw us to the polls?
I think we were moved by the message, not the what's the word I'm looking for? Not, I don't want to say not the intelligence of the message, but the message was void. It was hope and change. That was the message. Because if black people don't have anything, we've always had hope. We've always had hope. Mm-hmm. And Barack Obama was preaching about hope and change and how we were going to change America, how we had hope in this. So I think that type of positive Joel Osteen, if you will, type of message was able to move a lot of black people to the polls, and the color of it as well, because a lot of people finally felt like it's not Jesse Jackson, it's not Al Sharpton, it's not Alan Keyes. This guy has a legitimate chance.
He can win.
He can win. So we decided, because remember when he made that announcement in Chicago on that real cold day, there were a lot of people like, no, I'm still gonna ride with Hillary because I don't think. Yeah, who is he? Who is he? That guy with the funny name. I don't trust him. But then when he won the Iowa caucus, And I don't think he won Super Tuesday. I think Hillary won Super Tuesday.
I think so.
But when he started beating Hillary and it seemed like he could win, then that's when we start making a change.
That's when we jumped on board.
Exactly. So your next test is going to be in 2014. Charlie Crist, then Rick Scott. Are we going to show up to the polls for things that impact us locally? Because that's a local race. That's specific to the state of Florida. If you're upset about jobs, if you're upset about some of the federal money that the governor has turned away, if you're upset about education, if you're upset about the economy, any of those things that are going to impact your pocketbook, then you'll have the opportunity to make a change in 2014. However, we historically, do not show up for midterm elections. And there are going to be a lot of those coming up. April, you have Orlando municipal elections, District 5, that's going to come up. In August and November, District 6, you have a lot of these, District 4, a lot of these races that are going to come up. Are we going to sit back like we did in 2011? And even last year for the race that I was involved in, that was here locally, turnout was depressed. And that was a presidential election year. 15% of the electorate turned out for Orlando municipal elections in 2011. So in 2014, when you have the opportunity to actually do something about changing the direction of Florida, whether that be economically, whether that be jobs, transportation, whatever moves you, are you going to sit back and allow these things to continue to happen, or are you actually going to go to the polls, or are you waiting for the next Barack Obama to show up?
You know, we'll find out, brother. But if you're waiting on the next Barack Obama to show up, you're going to be waiting a long time on that one. So you just better go on out to the polls and do what you need to do.
President came out of nowhere, so you never know.
I don't think he did, man. Well, I take that back. For a lot of people, I'll take that back. For a lot of people, he did come out of nowhere. Because like Jeremy said, who knew of Barack Obama back in 2000 if you didn't follow politics? Right. He was the only black senator in the United States of America in pre-2008. And still a lot of black people didn't know about him. So for a lot, he did.
But the machine was building him since about 2002, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
2002, 2004. So
the
machine has been building them.
Isn't the machine building another one, though?
Absolutely.
Ain't Mr. Booker coming?
Mr. Booker is coming, but Mr. Booker got questions, brother. Mr. Booker still ain't what. So we don't know what's going on with that.
Look, I won't even submit to the superficial. I think if you just look at some of the things he's done in Newark and how he defended private equity, or what's my man's name, Mitt Romney, what he was into, then just look at some of what he's done in Newark and how he's changed Newark. Just look at some of that, and then that'll tell you all you need to know about Mr. Cory Booker. I'm not saying anything disparaging about him, but I'm just saying look into him before they start to submit him for president, because it's coming.
Yeah,
he's going to run for president. He's a senator now. He's on that track, but just look at what he's done, and just instead of paying attention to what they say and about his Facebook and Twitter and how he runs into burning buildings to save people. Yeah, instead, he camped out when he was first a city council member. He camped out on one of the most dangerous corners in Newark. Look past that and see what type of legislation he's been a part of.
Right. Because he actually has an investment company, if I remember right.
He's a smart dude.
Yeah,
he's
got him an investment company.
Yeah, he's
along the lines of
he's of that Barack Obama ilk.
Yeah,
so
and he's got the right color too. That helps.
What you trying to say? Only as Brother King would say, the yellow team. Huh?
Only the yellow team can make it to the White House. Brother. Only the yellow team. We still 20 years away from the Dark Brothers. But yeah, man. So we'll see. You gotta stay focused, man. Just a real quick. We only got a few minutes here. Speaking of another story I wanted to bring out. Have you guys heard of these knockout games, they call it, man. that kids are playing these days?
Yeah.
I haven't heard about it in Florida yet.
We copycat, so it's coming.
It's probably coming. But here's the idea. You have, and unfortunately, the stories that I've read have all been black teams too. But you have black teams in a group, and the idea is one of them at some random point will decide to step out, and then they will randomly see an individual walking down the street, and then the goal is to knock them out in one punch. So a group of teens walking down the street, you walking down the street, randomly one of them steps out of the crowd, sees you coming, and clock. The attempt is to knock you out with one punch, the knockout game.
See, you talking about lack of education. They'll give you 10 to 20 years for that.
Not only that, this is Florida.
You
You
I
get shot
think-
and killed
Stand your ground.
legally
You can.
for something as simple
See
as
a group.
a knockout
But you know
game.
what? If you don't want to go to jail, that you should come to Florida. If Aaron Hernandez would have committed those crimes in Florida, he'd be a free man right now.
You trying to
That's
say we
why-
don't convict nobody?
We
right?
don't. We'll send nobody to jail, man.
That's probably why you came to college.
But yeah, man, that's just crazy. A knockout game. Like really, like y'all ain't got nothing better to do in life
No, they don't.
than to walk around and randomly decide this is the person. And you know, they don't care who it is. They're playing this game on elderly people.
That's the unfortunate part.
Whether it be
Yeah,
they're playing this game on women,
Yeah.
you know, a young man. It's just random. You know, they're walking down the street. I think they call out Uno, they say, and then that person steps out of the crowd and then attempts to knock somebody out. You know, the unfortunate part is there's actually in other states people have died from people playing this game, and obviously charges are coming for those individuals, and I'm sure they'll get convicted of some particular crime. But I mean, honestly, like what is going on with teens today that they ain't got nothing better to do than play a game called the knockout game?
We used to do prank calls. Like we used to get a number from the
Serious.
phone book and just call somebody and
We
like,
used to play basketball from
Yeah.
sun up to sundown. I mean,
yeah, I mean, but knocking people out and
Now, I would say this now. It maybe wasn't called a knockout game, but people did go around and just used to randomly jumping people. It wasn't homeless people,
yeah.
but you know, people did do that. Now, and that's not any better.
No, I mean, but you know that it kind of reminds me of when you see somebody driving down the street, they don't have their lights on, and you've seen those news alerts. Don't flash your lights at
flash
them
your
because
lights at 'em.
yeah,
Making this, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, come on, man. You know, somebody maybe is looking out for your safety, or maybe you don't want to get pulled over by the police,
Yeah.
and you're gonna suffer consequences for doing that.
yeah.
You can't go anywhere anymore, man.
The world
yeah.
is getting kind of crazy
It
for
is,
sure, man.
It is. You can't go anywhere. And you know what? Before you go, did you see the SNL skit about what's with Rob Ford, the mayor of Toronto?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. That was fun.
That guy's comedic gold.
He is.
Comedic gold. Did you see him tackle the city council member?
I didn't see
I
that
didn't
one,
see that.
but I heard about it. I heard
I
that
heard
he
about
tackled
that.
the city
He
council.
tackled
member.
a city council member,
The
man. This
off
dude
the
is off
chain.
the hook.
That's why he's giving
Cocaine's a powerful drug.
That's why he's getting a reality show.
Him and his brother, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
him and his brother, man.
Getting a reality show, man. Crazy stuff. Here's the funny thing. I was listening to another radio program. They were having a discussion of the treatment of him compared to the treatment that they gave Marion Barry. But I think you know, on the program, they really kind of made it about race. To me, though, I think it has more to do with the times. Because in 19...
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, that was the late 90s when Marion Barry was having his problems, if I remember right. And at that
No,
time...
it was sooner than that, wasn't it? Wasn't it a little bit? Wasn't it like mid-90s maybe?
Mid-90s, okay.
Yeah.
So that during that time, television wasn't the phenomenon. Reality TV, I should say, wasn't a phenomenon that it is today.
And this guy's a reality TV star.
We were still condemning people for doing wrongs back then. Now,
We big 'em up.
foolishness is celebrated.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You know, we celebrate foolishness, 20 some odd years later. So I think that's the difference. I mean, sure, race may have something to do with it, but we also have to remember we're in two different countries as well. Toronto and America. We
You know what?
villainize everybody. in
But
this
you know
country,
what?
so-
Marion Barry is a city council member in D.C., so he's doing okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they've elected him again, even after he just got in trouble, I think it was last year, for like stealing some campaign money. So it doesn't matter what he does. People are
gets
still going
elected.
to elect him.
It's the name you know, brother.
Absolutely.
Name you
You know Marion Barry? All right, well, I know I'm going to get some good. He may steal some money or he may do this. I'm going to still elect him, though. But this Rob Ford guy, I hope he keeps it up.
He's gonna be good for television.
Yes, he will.
Jason, man, we thank you for stopping by as
Thanks for
always.
having me, man.
Anytime, brother. We want to thank everybody for listening tonight. Hope you enjoyed tonight's conversation. This is Gospel 1680 WOKB, Orlando's Gospel Music Channel. 407-894-1680 is the number. WOKBradio.com. You can tune in and listen as well. This is your host, Jay Real. We will see you next week, 9 p.m. follow us on Facebook, Real Family Talk. You can follow us on Twitter, Real Family Talk. The website, realfamilytalk.weebly.com.
You're listening to the Urban Empowerment and Inspiration Station, 1680 WOKB.
This is the day that